Hello, Nebraska, and welcome to this week's edition of the Retirement Compass, the show dedicated to helping you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio are two members from Stonebridge Wealth Systems based right here in Nebraska. We have Tim Kulhanek, who is the co-founder and a financial advisor, and partner and financial advisor, Jeremy Gove. The title of today's show is Safeguarding Your Wealth in the Age of AI. We're going to be talking today all about different schemes that are out there, different frauds that are happening. This is going to be a really interesting conversation. So, Tim, Jeremy, great to be with you.
Great to be with you as well. Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm excited just to start off. How did the inspiration for this show come to be?
Yeah, for one thing, I think both of us have found that with our clients, they're experiencing more and more of any type of financial exploitation type of schemes and scams that are going on. And really it's a nationwide type of deal. As the age of AI has, been, I guess, impressed upon us here, it's getting more and more difficult to combat these sort of things. I was recently at a conference in Indianapolis where the entire keynote speech was on helping safeguard client assets against these types of things. So we want to make sure that we're bringing it to our viewers as well.
For sure. Schemes and scams. It's interesting because it is happening. It's touched my own family in that I have had my parents received a phone call from someone who claimed to be my husband, sounded exactly like his voice, right? Thankfully, they didn't fall for it. My in-laws have also received, calls from people claiming to be family members, sounding just like them. And thankfully, everyone knows because of the work I do, they know to verify and thankfully haven't fallen prey to it. This is really a conversation for all viewers, no matter where you are. But I think specifically retirees are often being targeted and are the ones who are falling victim to a lot of these scams that are out there.
Yeah, so let's first talk about what this is. So essentially what we're talking about is financial exploitation, okay? And you can define financial exploitation in a few different ways. What we're going to call it is the misappropriation or misuse of an older or vulnerable person, adult's funds, deceiving someone with the promise of goods or services or benefits that may not even exist, or cashing someone else's checks without permission, forging signatures, or improperly using authority. Now, who are the common perpetrators of this? Unfortunately, it's kind of sad, but commonly, it's family, it's friends, it's professional service providers. It's normally people that you know and trust, but it also is the strangers, the people calling from call centers overseas who are trying to steal your money.
Or using AI and stealing someone's voice, right? That's been happening too.
That's true. We just know that from the statistics that we do have, the majority of the victims end up knowing the person who committed the act.
Yeah, well, and clearly this is a massive problem. I know you have some stats to share. Let's share that with our viewers, because I think sometimes people think, oh, this couldn't happen to me, or this won't happen to me. I'm savvy enough. But let's look at the numbers, because it tells a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2023, the FBI recorded 880,000 complaints. And they were showing, or I guess, losses exceeded $12.5 billion. That's with a B, billion dollars.
Wow, $12.5 billion of potential loss from those complaints.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is that that's an 11% increase from 2022. The one thing, the statistic that really stood out to me the most, though, that's a big number. That's a lot of money.
Right.
But the statistic is that the FBI believes 1 in 25 are actually reported. So who knows what that number could actually be?
So only 4% are actually
so it's hundreds of billions.
Reported.
Yeah.
And of that 4%, it was already $12.5 billion.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason that they suggest that is because, like Tim mentioned, a lot of times it's somebody that the person knows that stole the money or that took the money from them. And so oftentimes they don't want them to get into trouble. It might even be a small amount of dollars. They just don't want the person to get into trouble, or they feel they're embarrassed that they fell for it.
Yep.
That's another reason that oftentimes they don't get
there's shame
reported.
that comes with that, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So many factors can come into play of why someone may not report what's actually going on, for sure. Well, I know that you firsthand have seen these scams play out, unfortunately, and people come to you after they've been in that mess and are like, help, right? Talk about some of the things that you're actually seeing in the scams, especially here in Nebraska.
Yeah, so I'll first touch on one that I had just the other day. And so a lot of times what these folks are doing, what these scammers are doing, is they actually they exploit the benefits of technology. So we love that we can, it used to be that if you wanted to learn something, you had to go to the library, grab the encyclopedia, and then go to the next one and the next one. Even not that long ago, I like to say it this way, not that long ago when I was in college, we'd go to the library and we'd study. We'd have the big textbooks. Today, with the help of not just the internet, but now artificial intelligence, you type in a few keywords and boom, you have answers right in front of you. Well, let's say that you order a product online from, I won't name any names, but a reputable type of company that everyone would know the name to. And you decide, this isn't the product for me. I got the wrong one. It just isn't useful. It doesn't work properly. So you Google, let's say, use the internet to find what's the customer support number. Well, what these scammers will do is they'll create fake ads or fake numbers online. So you think you're calling customer support for XYZ company, but instead you're calling someone in, a lot of them are emanating from India or somewhere in the Caribbean.
Right.
And this gal called me and she said, I'm pretty shook up, Tim. I ordered a product. I called customer support to tell them that it wasn't working properly and I wanted to return it. And they told me I had committed a law violation. I think tried to convince her she'd committed a felony of some kind with, a trade commission type of violation.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, they transferred me directly to the FTC. Now, as soon as, we were talking about red flags, as soon as she said she was transferred from customer support of an online retailer.
Supposedly to the Federal Trade Commission.
Correct.
Right.
Blaring red flag. Right. Hey, this is probably a scam. So what I did, I said, hey, listen, give me the phone number you called. I put her on hold and I called the number. Instantly, I knew this is a scam. I said, oh no, I was trying to call, and I made up a name of a company. I said PayPal or something like that. And I said, actually, I thought I was calling the Federal Trade Commission. And they said, let me just put you on hold. I might be able to patch you through. Now, obviously, if you call PayPal or these other companies, they can't patch you through to let me get the president for you while you're at it,
Yeah.
So right away I knew it was a scam. And so thankfully she hadn't given them too much information, but she did give them the last 4 digits of her social security number, her telephone number, her date of birth. And she was almost in tears. She said, Tim, I don't understand why I need to go to the bank right now and take $7,000 and put it in the lockbox, or the sheriff is going to come to my house. So they use intimidation and fear tactics to try to get you to do things you otherwise wouldn't do.
Right.
So what I did is I diffused the situation and I said, listen, I want you to talk to your bank, put restriction on your account. I want you to sign up for a credit monitoring type of to help prevent identity fraud, identity theft, and then I want you to not return any of their phone calls going forward. But these things are happening, and they're again, this gal was 82 years old. They're mainly targeting seniors.
Right, and that's just so heartbreaking and sad. They're taking advantage, literally, of folks, and it happened at any age, But specifically, I think for retirees, they are a very vulnerable population.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what can be done about this, right? I mean, how are you helping folks stay on the proactive side of not falling prey to these scams and schemes? Obviously, we're doing a whole show dedicated to this, but what are some other ways that folks can really be on guard to protect themselves?
Yeah, I mean, so what I have kind of put together is I said, listen, if you don't recognize the phone number, or if it says, a lot of times if it's a spam call, it'll say potential spam, don't answer it. I'm talking directly to our viewers now. Don't answer that call, because here's what happens. If you answer that call, you just got elevated to the top of their list, because all of a sudden they know, hey, this is somebody who answers unknown phone calls, and you're going to be targeted more. They're honing in on you now. So don't answer that phone call. And if it seems too good to be true, it's like the golden rule of investing. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If they're making outlandish promises and using words like we can guarantee this or that, one kind of fail-safe to implement into your repertoire of defending yourself and safeguarding your resources is just to simply say, listen, that sounds great. Let me run it by my financial advisor and I'll get back to you and let you know what they say. Now, if they tell you, no, you don't want to do that, that's how you know this is probably not a great deal, and I should probably find something else or forego taking this person up on this offer. But really, where Stonebridge comes in is protecting your money is important. We talk about protecting your money from market volatility, from healthcare events in the future, from rising taxes. But really the role of a financial advisor, and what we see at Stonebridge, our team of elite advisors, is our role being for you, is to make sure we're protecting your money from outside threats as well, including these schemes and scams. We're going to talk more about it today, but to make sure you have a trusted ally in your corner, you can start with simply a complimentary written financial plan. And as part of that plan, we're going to make sure we put together a robust strategy to put a fence around around your money to make sure it's protected from all those other market and normal related things, but also from other bad actors who want to access your hard-earned money, and we'll help you keep it safe.
I can't think of a better team to be in someone's corner to help provide that protection. So Tim and Jeremy, thank you. I know you have a lot of other important information to share on today's very special episode. But as Tim shared, if you would like to get started and receive your very own complimentary written financial plan from the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems, this is so simple to do. It's for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to see how they can help and serve you. To claim yours, all you need to do is call that number you see on the bottom of your screen, 866-256-7778. Or if you have your smartphone handy and you'd rather not talk to someone right now, you can simply pull that out, open up your camera app, point, click, and scan that QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Stonebridge Wealth Systems will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary written financial plan meeting that way as well. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more valuable information on how you can help safeguard your wealth in this age of AI right after this.
My story started when I was in college. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew it was going to be in the financial industry. I took a lot of accounting and finance classes. I thought I'd probably work in like a bigger company and work my way through maybe the accounting department. But then when I was doing a internship the summer before my senior year, I walked into a business. I was trying to sell magazine ads. I don't know if I call it magazine ads, but basically ad space in the back of the UNK student handbook and planner, which was a difficult sell because, nobody uses pen and paper planners anymore, at least not college students. But I made my best pitch to some financial advisors. I happened to be Scott Noctegal that I met with that day. When I went for the close and tried to see if he was ready to sign up for some ad space, he said, yeah, no, I'm not interested in that, but it takes a lot of courage to have somebody to be willing to walk into a business, especially a business that really doesn't cater to your target audience, to put yourself out there in a way that the odds of you being successful are probably pretty low. That's the type of person we'd be looking for at our firm. Have you decided what you want to do? And I said, no, I really haven't, but I know I want to work with finance because I like numbers, and math's always been my favorite subject, and working with kind of complex equations, almost like a puzzle. And so that's really where it all began.
Welcome back, Nebraska. You're watching The Retirement Compass, where today myself and Tim Kulhanek and Jeremy Gove are putting together a very special episode talking about schemes and scams, how you can protect yourself during this age of AI, that artificial intelligence, which we are seeing a growing trend, unfortunately, of fraud, specifically in the financial services space. And we want you to be armed and guarded and protected so that you don't fall victim to these same scams. Tim, you shared a story in the last segment about a woman that you have worked with who called and had been, attempted to be scammed, right? Thankfully, you were able to prevent it sooner before it continued down that road right here in Nebraska. I shared the story that happened with my parents. That was in Nevada. Then I've got my in-laws in North Carolina. It's happening nationwide, and it's happening more and more specifically to retirees. There was this study that came out by Retirement Daily on the Street, where they went around and asked financial advisors such as yourselves, and this question: have any of your clients ever been a victim of financial scams or schemes? And the results were that 88% said yes. That is staggering that this is happening to people.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the thing we need to understand, and you said this earlier in the show, Kristen, is that oftentimes we think like, oh, that won't happen to me, or oh, they must have been foolish, or they must have made a major mistake.
I would never have done that. I would have never given out this piece of information, or whatever the case might be.
But that's just not the truth. That's not what the statistics bear out. So there was the Sharples case that we were talking about during the break, and I'll touch on it briefly. So this is actually a article from December of last year, so December of 2023, from the Washington Post, and it says, the scammers get away, the government gets its piece, and she gets nothing. And the moral of the story is this: Frances Sharples, she's a former U.S. government scientist and PhD. She worked for the government clear back from like the Clinton years all the way through recently, retired. And at the end of the day, she was scammed out of over $600,000.
Wow.
And it was like the classic tech support type of issue where, she was working on a word game on her computer, and up pops this, red flashing box that says, you have a virus or something like that, and you need to call,
this number Yep.
number for tech support, and she called it. And these people, they are very patient. So this was over a 2 to 3 month period where they built a relationship with her, gained her trust, and convinced her not just to send them money from her bank account, but to cash out her retirement account at a large institution,
Oh my word.
move that to her bank account, and then send that money to this will resonate with some people, a cryptocurrency exchange. So basically she converted all of her cash into things like Bitcoin and other
Sure.
types of cryptocurrencies.
Yep.
And the scammers love that because it's harder to track and it's easier for them to get away with the money. You can't really get it back. It's not like putting on a credit card and you can put a stop pay type of
Right.
order on there. So all the money was gone. Now, the sad thing about this case is a fraud expert at the custodian that she held this money at even called her up and said, hey, listen, I think you're being scammed. But this person, because they'd spent so much time and effort in gaining her trust, had coached her to say, hey, if you talk to any fraud experts, they're actually the ones that are trying to scam you. So they kind of brainwashed
That
her.
reverse psychology. Yeah.
Exactly. And she said, nope, this is my decision. This is what I want to do. And at the end of the day, she was out. Now, here's the most painful part. That money came out of a qualified plan. We're talking about qualified plans on a previous show.
Yes.
What happens if you take $630,000 out of a qualified plan?
What happens,
You
Jeremy?
pay a lot of taxes.
Right.
Did she have any money to pay the taxes?
Nope.
No, because she gave it all to this company.
Yeah.
So she ended up owing the tax bill, and the government basically says, hey, look, sorry, that's too bad that happened to you. We still get our piece, you get nothing.
Oh my gosh. I mean, how do you recover from that? You know, that's the devastating piece is that you can get down that trail, and if you're not aware, then unfortunately it's too late and nothing can be done. How tragic.
Yeah, very tragic. I think
And to your point, it happened to someone who is very smart, very intelligent, a PhD, right? I mean,
she had a quote that I can't say verbatim, but she basically said, I'm not a dumb person. You
Right.
know? I gotta be very careful. This is an educational show. This
Yes.
is daytime TV. But she was pretty fired up about it. She goes, I'm not
For
stupid
sure.
here. No, I'm
Yeah.
a highly educated individual, and this happened to me. How foolish could I have been? This is the biggest mistake I could have possibly made.
Right. Well, again, we want to make sure that you are armed and protected. So, Jeremy, what are some of your best tips to help folks? You know, how have you coached your clients to respond to some of these potential situations that they could be facing?
Well, I think Tim kind of mentioned it earlier. Just looking for red flags. If you're just really pay attention to the words that they're using, that these people are using. Read the text of whatever if you're getting like an email, if you're getting some messages. Look at the address bar. Where did it actually come from? You know, a lot of times there are a few red flags in there. They're getting better and better at it for sure. But that's one example. Just look for red flags. Maybe even talk to people that you know about it, because a lot of times it's not just you they're targeting, and there's other people. And so, you know, there might be something that's going around Facebook or whatever, and you happen to be a target, they're a target, so you can talk about it a little bit. Screening calls is another big one. As Tim mentioned, if you answer the phone and it says potential spam,
Right.
then you can become a target. You're putting your name on that list, they're recording that number. And so those are just a couple simple things, but I think really the critical piece is having somebody that's in your corner that you can bounce these things off of.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a client who is a veteran, and he told me, I would actually like to buy some gold in my IRA account. And we were talking about that, and he actually went through a veterans magazine. So this is an actual magazine that he is a subscriber to, and purchased gold from this company advertising in this veterans magazine. And he immediately trusted them because they're in the veterans magazine, right? So they built that trust that way. Well, ultimately, he was told that he couldn't roll his IRA over to buy the gold. He had to withdraw it. So he had to take the money out and then make the purchase. And ultimately what happened is they wanted him to buy $100,000 worth of gold. And when we started talking about it, there were 10 $10,000 contracts. And I said, well, how much gold are you getting? And he said, it's about 1.75 ounces. And I said, you know, I just pulled up gold, the price of gold real quick. And there's no way that makes sense. So then thankfully he was kind enough to let me join him on the phone call. And this person we spoke to was irate, number one, that a financial advisor would even take the time to get on the phone with him. But ultimately he was getting $3,000 worth of gold for $10,000. And the idea behind it is, well, they're coming in gold coins, so that's why they're worth more. Well, ultimately, he found out, he didn't tell me this, but he had already bought $100,000 worth of gold from them.
Wow.
And so, his heart sunk, and he didn't even tell me that. He didn't even have the courage to tell me because he was so embarrassed.
Oh yeah, poor guy.
And thankfully, he was able to find an attorney who was actually going after this company already from down in Texas. And so he was able to recover about $82,000 of his $100,000.
Wow.
So I think it's important to have an advisor in your corner that you can pick up the phone, and don't be embarrassed. We have heard it all. So don't be embarrassed. If you have any questions, or if you find yourself in this situation where you're going through something right now, feel free to pick up the number, or pick up the phone and dial the number that you see on the bottom of your screen, and we'll be glad to visit with you about that situation.
And I know that you treat this kind of scenario, as you do all aspects of someone's financial plan, with a lot of care, a lot of compassion, and you're not going to be met with judgment. And so if this is something that you're struggling with, as Jeremy just so eloquently said, we invite you to pick up the phone and call. This is why Stonebridge Wealth Systems is here for you. This is why we do this show. We put out this programming. We want to help and serve you. All it is a phone call away. So simply call 866-256-7778 to receive your very own complimentary written financial plan. Or again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code, and that will get you connected as well. More on the Retirement Compass right after this.
Imagine not having to face your retirement journey with the same old corporate solutions as everyone else. In these economic times, you deserve a fresh perspective that includes a personalized income plan and a tax map from an independent fiduciary advisor whose focus is on you. Call the number you see here to schedule your complimentary review.
Is your retirement being eaten up by financial termites like hidden fees, inflation, and avoidable taxes? Call today for a complimentary financial review so we can help you root out these retirement killers.
Have you ever considered refinancing your retirement? When interest rates are low, you might be able to refinance your home, your car, and even your credit card rates, because it could help keep more of your money each month. Yet when interest rates go up, it may make sense to refinance your retirement. Higher interest rates could provide income opportunities that you may not be aware of. What works for your portfolio during low interest rates may not work for you when interest rates are high. Find out if a retirement refi could work better for you. Give us a call today and schedule a complimentary Refi Your Retirement review.
Welcome back, Nebraska. You're watching the Retirement Compass, where today we have a very important show for you. It's called Schemes and Scams. We want to make sure that you and your hard-earned wealth are protected from all the scams that we are seeing. There's a huge increase happening out there from a financial perspective. We're going to go through some common ones that you want to make sure you can avoid. But before we get to that, you did a really good job in the last segment of sharing some tips, some of the red flags. I know I shared briefly about, my parents supposedly getting a call from my husband. It was his exact voice, but it was not him. Yep. My in-laws have repeatedly gotten calls from different family members. And what I'm so proud in those situations, because we're talking about people in their 80s, they had the wherewithal to call, text, say, hey, do you know where your husband is? Check in with him. They were able to verify, okay, that was not him. He's not on the side of the road needing money, or whatever the crazy scenario was. And so again, just making sure you talk about this as a family unit can be really powerful, especially kids with aging parents with children, and so forth. But let's talk now about some of the scams that you guys are seeing that are happening more commonly, so that folks can make sure that they are protected from them.
Yeah, so the first one is probably, I think probably one of the worst scams, because it's a romance scam. It's a romance scam. So you're dealing with people's hearts and heartstrings and stuff. And so, but basically what's happening is they're using, they're saying that I'm a person that's overseas, maybe in the military, or maybe a government contractor or whatever. And somehow we establish this relationship through online dating sites or whatever. And hey, we've developed this relationship. Now I'm in trouble. I need $10,000, or I need $5,000 or whatever. and they'll send the money over to try to help them out. And that's probably, in my opinion, one of the worst ones, just because of the heartstrings.
Right, it's pulling at that emotional component. They're using all these psychological tactics to get people to do what they want them to do.
Exactly.
Manipulation.
Exactly. And to go along with that, we've probably all heard of the grandparents one. Your grandson is in Mexico and they had too much to drink and they got arrested and now they need to pay $5,000 or they're not going to get out of jail or whatever. And so it's just important to, like we said, just keep in mind, is that grandchild actually in Mexico? So they typically will say, don't tell my parents.
Yep.
I don't want to get in trouble, so don't tell my parents.
Right.
I'm coming to you, Grandpa and Grandma, so please don't tell my parents. And so that's a situation that probably is worth calling the parents just to verify.
And I can see the emotion just as you're telling that story, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And with my mother-in-law, this was great. So she's in North Carolina and repeatedly was getting a call from someone who was supposedly one of her grandsons. She knew it wasn't him, but again, it was exactly his voice. And thankfully, she was wise enough to know. She finally said, "I done helped you enough," and just hung up on the scammer. But it's scary because again, this is happening, and you think it won't happen to me, but as we've illustrated on today's show, it can happen to anyone, anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that grandparent one actually happened to my grandpa probably about 20 years ago. And they called back for more money. And by that time, he had called my aunt and said, "Hey, I promised, I wouldn't tell, but, so-and-so's in trouble."
Right.
Well, he's right here. What do you mean he's in trouble?
Yeah.
And he'd already sent the money.
Oh, gosh.
So it's really heartbreaking. And at the end of the day, it goes down, if I want to use another analogy to try to kind of simplify this and make people understand what we're trying to do here. I know we're in Nebraska, but I'm going to use a Bear Bryant quote. He said, "Offense sells tickets, defense wins championships." And part of having a successful financial plan is to make sure you have a good defensive plan to protect your money. We could use George Washington. He said, "Make them believe that offensive operations oftentimes is the surest, if not the lonely means of defense." So the reality is we need to have a good defensive plan. Now, I don't know that, you could call us the 84 Bears, but maybe the 09 Black Shirts. Everyone in Nebraska obviously understands what I mean by 09 Black Shirts. You need a good defensive plan. We can help you implement that plan. Just give us a call today, and we'll put that together for you. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Wonderful. Tim, Jeremy, thank you so much. Thank you for your heart, your care, compassion, and for being willing to dedicate a show to such an important subject. We hope that you found this to be helpful and beneficial. That's how it's intended each and every week. Again, to start your complimentary written financial plan, simply call 866-256-7778. We love you, Nebraska. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to being back with you next time here on the Retirement Compass.